Hey folks, Unboxer of Worlds here. It's the spooky season. Halloween is just a few short days away, and I figured since I don't have anything to unbox right now, why not make a tier list ranking one of my favorite modern horror franchises, the Saw movies. So a few months ago I did an unboxing of the Saw 20th Anniversary Blu-ray box set, and people seemed to really dig it, so I figured, why not do some more Saw stuff? So I've got all 10 of the Saw movies laid out randomly along the bottom of this tier list, and we're going to see what I think about them. We're going to start with Jigsaw. Now this one's kind of controversial. I know a lot of the fans dislike this one, but that kind of surprises me because this is the only Saw movie I actually saw in theaters, and I really enjoyed it. My only real complaint was that I predicted the twist about 20 minutes in. But I did enjoy the movie. I thought the kills and the traps were pretty good. I thought I liked the atmosphere in the barn. So I liked it a lot more than some people. It's not sawsome, but it's also not game over bad. I'm gonna give this one solid. Next we have Saw 2. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I know this one is a fan favorite. It took everything that was awesome about the first Saw movie, gave it an actual budget, and expanded it. And arguably, there's plenty of people who think Part 2 is even better than Part 1. And I kind of think I might be slowly coming around to that line of thinking myself. Genuinely an awesome movie. Saw 2 is sawsome. Saw 3. Saw 3 is actually one of my favorite films in the franchise. I know Jigsaw's role was probably a little bit bigger in Saw 2. He was kind of bedridden in this one. But I like the storyline, I like the twist. I like the gore, the traps, and I think this was a really good trilogy capper. The only problem, of course, spoiler warning, is that they killed off Jigsaw at the end of movie 3 in a franchise that went on to have 7 more Jigsaw-based movies. But that said, I personally love Saw 3, it's one of my favorites, and I'm going to rank this one also as sawsome. By the way, folks, subscribe to Unboxer of Worlds and hit that like button. Alright, now we have Saw 4. This one had quite a task ahead of it. It had to re-establish the franchise after the death of the main character. Was it successful? I guess in the most technical sense. I thought this was the most confusing of all the Saw movies when I saw it. I guess it technically takes place during the same time period as Saw 3. But it didn't really feel like a cohesive movie as much as just a pile of scenes thrown at you. And there were so many flash forwards and flashbacks and crazy transitions that you really needed to have a degree in the Saw mythos to understand this one. That said, it did give us a lot of John Kramer, Jigsaw's backstory, and it's always great to see Tobin Bell portray that role. So it's not one of my favorites, but it's not the worst. I'm going to call this one the first to be weak sauce. Alright, now we have Spiral from the Book of Saw. I actually only just saw this movie for the first time a few days ago. I was kind of turned off for a long time because I knew that Jigsaw wasn't really in this film. But you know what? I respect them for trying to do something different within the Saw mythology. You know, I didn't really at first like the voice they chose for the tape recordings, but I kind of understand. They were trying to set themselves apart, and Jigsaw's voice is one of the most iconic parts of any Saw movie, so they wanted to do something a little different. You know, we had Chris Rock in here, we had Samuel L. Jackson, so pretty big cast. Not my favorite, but you know what? I'll be honest, I liked it more than I thought that I was going to like it. So I'm going to put this one under so-so. Or actually, maybe I should have called that Saw. No, I don't know, I'm stupid. Alright folks, Saw 3D, the final chapter. By the way, check out my other videos. I have a lot of unboxings and reviews and other stuff as I aimlessly try to find the niche I belong in, and hopelessly try to build up an audience on my YouTube channel. So if you wanted to hit the subscribe button, I'd appreciate it. So Saw 3D, the final chapter, the 7th film in the Saw franchise. I'll tell you what, the trailers had me really pumped for this one. Then I watched it, and it was, in my humble opinion, awful. I watched it again recently, and it felt like it was shot on video. It felt like a made-for-TV movie, and the pacing was way too fast, and there were traps coming out of nowhere that had no setup, no weight to them, no gravity. They really took the 3D gimmick and ran with it, but the whole film just felt cheap. Jigsaw's voice didn't even sound the way it usually does. They wasted the character of Hoffman. This one was just a mess. And the worst part about it, the two worst parts about it, by the time we got to this film in the franchise, every single Saw fan had predicted the big twist. We knew who Jigsaw's main secret apprentice was. Most of us had known it since the end of Saw 1. So when they finally revealed it, all these movies later, it was kind of underwhelming because everyone saw it coming, and they didn't really live up to the promise of the 6 films before it. The other bad thing about it is Tobin Bell's Jigsaw character, John Kramer. He was in this movie for maybe 2 minutes, tops. And the one, everyone memes this one, but the one scene he appeared in a flashback when he was younger, where they apparently, I guess, didn't have the budget to make Tobin Bell actually look younger, so they just put him in a hoodie and a backwards baseball cap, because apparently that makes you look younger. Anyway, this, in my humble opinion, is the worst thing in the Saw franchise. It's not to say it doesn't have some good moments, it does. But yeah, it's terrible. Game over. All right, Saw 6. The final film in what I consider the Hoffman trilogy. Hoffman being the detective who kind of took over the mantle of Jigsaw after the death of Jigsaw. I wasn't sold on that character so much in Saws 4 and 5, but man, by the time we get to Saw 6, he has really come into his own and become a worthy villain for this franchise. By the climax of the film, there's this scene where Hoffman is cornered. Everyone knows his identity. So he just lashes out and pretty much single-handedly kills an entire room full of people to make his escape. And it is badass. At the same time, there's a really good Jigsaw story running through this film where John Kramer Jigsaw has pretty much captured an insurance representative who screwed him over and caused him ultimately to succumb to his cancer. And so he puts him in this series of really awful traps. And because of that, it felt like a very personal Saw movie where you could tell John Kramer really wanted to teach this guy a lesson, both literally and figuratively, as evidenced by the fact that in all the video messages John Kramer left for this guy during the course of the game, he didn't appear as the Billy puppet as he does in most of the movies. He was just himself on camera, so you knew he took this one personally. This movie was gory. It was awesome. It really kind of redeemed itself after a subpar Saws 4 and 5. So this one, I'm definitely going to say, is sawsome. All right, Saw 5. Not as good as Saw 6, but not as confusing as Saw 4. It gave us some of Hoffman's backstory. It had some interesting traps. But I got to say, the biggest problem with this movie, if Saw 4 was just too much with how much was going on, this one, by comparison, was just kind of boring, unfortunately. Whoa, excuse me. Oh, I burped. Hit that subscribe button. Anyway, Saw 5, a little bit slow, not terrible, not the worst, far from the best. It's so-so. All right, funny that the last two are the first and last film in the franchise. So we're going to go with Saw, the first Saw. So I was one of the lucky people who had no idea what the twist was in this movie. And when I saw that twist play out, how it came together with the edits of all the scenes that kind of foreshadowed what was happening, the way that music swelled to a crescendo, and the twist finally revealed itself and you found out who Jigsaw really was, this thing was next level, and I am so glad that twist didn't get ruined for me. I watched it again recently, and it's not without its faults, and the low budget is very evident. They really had to make do with very small, limited sets, but they did really well with what they had. The acting could have been a lot better. I was surprised because there's some actors in that film who've done really good work in the past. It could be a little slow, but you know what? It's the first Saw movie. It established this whole franchise. It gave us one of the most iconic cinematic killers of the last 2 decades, and the twist is just legendary. So Saw is Sawsome. All right, one left. The newest Saw movie, Saw X. It's funny that 10 movies in, they finally kind of figured out what the fans really want, and that is Jigsaw to be front and center in his own movie. And that's what we finally got. This dude died in movie 3, yet he is the main character of movie 10, because movie 10 is kind of a prequel. It takes place between Saw 1 and 2. Jigsaw is the main character, and let me tell you, this is one of the best movies in the franchise, because we finally get this fascinating character, and he's not just the villain, he is the protagonist. He's the guy whose journey we are on. And even though he has done heinous things in this franchise, you totally understand why. He's been totally defrauded by these people who are promising, this miracle cure from his cancer, and they betray him. And then the only thing you can do in that case when you're Jigsaw is take some gnarly-ass revenge. You also get Shawnee Smith back as Amanda. And one of the weak things about Saws 4, 5, and 6 was that some of Jigsaw's apprentices, they didn't really follow his mythos. They made traps where it was impossible to win, and that was never really what Jigsaw's, what his ideology was about. He wanted his traps to be winnable so that if you survived, you would learn a lesson and instantly be rehabilitated from whatever awful thing he thought you deserved to be put in a trap from. So the series had gotten away from that, but in Saw X, they really embrace it. You really get the pure Jigsaw mindset, where if someone survives the trap he puts them in, he lets them go. He'll even get them medical assistance. So he definitely comes across as an honorable person in his own fucked up way in this movie. And by the end of it, you really start rooting for him, much more so than you would ever think possible in like Saw 1 or Saw 2. He really is the hero of Saw X. And it's shocking that the 10th installment of this thing is one of the best ones in the entire series. And I think it's the only one on Rotten Tomatoes that's like certified fresh. It is a very different movie from some of the other ones, but you know what? It doesn't matter. It is awesome. This may be my favorite film in the entire Saw franchise. So Saw X is Sawsome. So there you go, folks. Funny how my tier list kind of forms a big letter F, apparently. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Check me out on social media. Motivate me to get out of my funk and start making videos again before I fade into obscurity. And happy Halloween, folks. I'll catch you later.